Hey everyone, welcome back to Retold. I'm Legendary, your host and your favorite well, storyteller. Well, I assume I'm your favorite if you're here. Anyway, today we're going to be doing a very special treat, one of my favorite stories, The Seven Voyages of Sinbad the Sailor. Alright, so our story begins long ago in that nebulous time when magic was real. You know the one. Somewhere in Arabia, a young man named Sinbad, whose father just died, was responsibly enjoying his inheritance by getting wasted and partying his ass off. One day he awakens from his booze and opening to his home and realizes, oh man, that's all I have left? Money's almost gone. I've got to get serious. I have to actually do work to support myself so I can continue to drink booze and take opium. Okay, so he sells everything he owns, buys a merchant ship, and goes sailing for his fortune, declaring, he who seeks fame without toil and strife, the impossible seeks and wastes his life. So the Voyagers eventually land on a beautiful island, decide to hang out there for a while. One starts a fire, starts cooking. The captain comes running back to the forest and goes, guys, we need to go. Run, move, bounce, go ghost, back to the ship, now. Turns out the island is a giant whale with a whole island on its back, a whale that was now diving because some idiot just set a fire to his back. So Sinbad goes, oh crap, let's go, let's go, let's go. Proceeds to run. He does not make it to the ship. He gets cracked in the head by a plank, and he ends up clinging to the same plank that has smashed him in the face for dear life once the island whale is gone. So he passes out. He wakens on a new island and goes, man, that was not fun. That was like the worst experience of my life so far. So he wanders around for like a week until he finds this noble horse tied up to the beach, and he goes, hey, horse, here, want some grass? It's all I've eaten all week. The horse eats out of the palm of his hand. The two bond. When out of goddamn nowhere, a giant stallion comes out of the sea and starts pulling the mirror towards the sea. And Sinbad's like, okay, for one, I don't think that's what a seahorse looks like, but I'm not the person making this up. Oh well, you know what? You cannot mess with my new friend. So he grabs a stick and starts beating the supernatural creature over the head with it until the sea stallion goes, you know what? Screw it, I'm gone, and runs back to the sea. Once that's over, Sinbad pats the mare, calms it down, goes, he's gone, you're safe. And then the king of the island shows up and goes, hey, did you just save my favorite horse from a horrible fate? Yeah, kinda. That's awesome, man. Here, let me hook you up with some food and a job as one of my courtiers. Really? Really? Dope. Let's go. So Sinbad ends up becoming the port master for this king. He gets rich and finally finds a ship that abandons him. And he goes, well, let's go. Hey guys, I'm not mad at you abandoning me to my fate. You had no idea of knowing if I was dead or alive at the time. Just don't do it again. Let's get back. Let's get back to Arabia. The king goes, hey, before you go, take this gift that's worth exactly 20 times more than that ship and everything in it combined. Wait, what? Seriously? Yeah, I'll protect you, man. So Sinbad goes home, becomes a wealthy man, and goes, yeah, I'm done with all this adventure stuff. Sinbad's a liar. So let's go to story 2. So after a few months after his last life-threatening adventure, he's super rich and super bored, and he's like, well, I'm going to go sailing again. There's no way I'm going to get involved in magical BS twice in one lifetime, right? Oh, Sin. Poor Sin. So he gets a crew and he sets out and they chill and they set out. They eventually find and chill on an island. Sinbad falls asleep and he wakes up 6 hours later to find the crew has left him behind and goes, huh. I'm starting to sense a running pattern to my life. But he wanders around the island and comes across a giant white orb hidden among the foliage, which is so well hidden it almost disguises the fact that the orb is so white it reflects all the light bouncing off of it. So Sinbad, flexing that good old private Arabian education, goes, oh my god, that's a rock. A bird so big it eats elephants. The only bird bigger than the rook is Ziz, which is so big it eats dragons. It stands on the ocean only comes up to his knees, and it boxes with the Leviathan. So Sinbad comes up with a clever sneak plan. He hides in the nest, and then when the mama rook comes home, he ties himself to the rook's leg and goes, now fly across time and space, take me home. The rook does not take him home. Instead, it flies to a valley filled with elephants eating snakes. Yes, these snakes eat elephants. And as this rook hunts one of these elephant-eating snakes, the rope breaks and Sinbad is just stuck there. Sinbad looks around and goes, "Oh, okay, so bad news. I'm surrounded by snakes and that could accidentally eat me with no physical way out, and I'm running out of food. Good news, the ground is diamonds. Bad news, part 2, I can't eat diamonds. Damn you, society, and your arbitrary value on goods that can't be used practically." So he spends a week in this valley and trains himself to be nocturnal so he can hide from the serpents at night and sleep during the day to adapt to their own nocturnal pattern. But good news finally comes when one day Sinbad is awakened from his sleep by a freaking snake smacking him in the head. And he goes, "Well, either I'm crazy or this is a beefsteak." He's not crazy. Merchants had discovered the island and were mining the jewels by pelting the floor with meat. Then the rocks brought the meat back to their nest. They chase the rocks away and collect the gems stuck to the meat. So Sinbad comes up with another tricksy trick where he ties himself to a cow carcass. Yes, one of the merchants have thrown a whole cow down there. And then with a giant bag he filled with jewels. The rock comes down, it grabs the carcass, he gives a ride to the nest, then he helps the merchants chase the rock away with fire. Sinbad pays them all with a few diamonds and goes, "Yeah, can we put this island in our rear view?" The merchants are like, "That is probably a good idea, let's get out of here." They head back home, Sinbad trades all the diamonds and becomes even richer, and he's like, "Okay, I am definitely not leaving my house this time." And this is another lie. Because he gets back home, he gets bored again, and he's like, "Okay, last time. So he sails out for the third time, and unfortunately, him and his companions immediately get shipwrecked on an island with a huge creature in the likeness of a man, black as pitch, with a singular eye like coals of fire and large canine teeth like boar's tucks and a big gaped mouth like a well, and oh my god, loose lips like a camel's hanging down to his chest, and ears like two yarns falling upon over his shoulder blades, and nails like the claws of a lion. Yeah, yeah, and Sinbad for some reason goes, "Oh my god, I think I know you. Hey, aren't you Polymetheus, the ancient legendary Cyclops that fought Odysseus?" And the monster goes, "Yes." Don't ask no questions why this guy looks completely different if he's supposed to be the same guy. I don't know, I'm just a storyteller. Roll with it. So Sinbad decides to use the exact same plan Odysseus used to blind him with 2 large iron spits. And then while the monster was eating some of his friends, so he and the remaining men escape on a raft. And unfortunately, the giant's mate, because apparently the giant had a wife who was just as ugly looking as him, pelts them with rocks, which ends up with them being stuck on an island with a gigantic python. And this gigantic python just eats the rest of the crew, but Sinbad manages to escape it by tying rocks to himself and camouflaging himself as rocks so it can't find him. And then he gets the attention of a merchant ship, so they rescued him. So the captain gives him some goods that he said were some other merchants, and he's like, "Hey man, you've had a long day. Here, this is yours." And then Sin's like, "No, this literally is mine. This is my stuff." Oh, and the captain's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Here, you can have all your stuff back. Our bad." So he returns home, makes a huge profit, donates some of it to widows and orphans, and then proceeds to drink the memories away with all of his booze. Like, just all the booze he could find in Arabia. And he's like, "Okay, this time I'm for real. I am not leaving my house again." So, you guys want to hear about Sinbad's 4th voyage, where he leaves his house again and goes voyaging again and gets into magical danger again? Okay, so Sinbad once again gets bored and takes to the sea and again gets shipwrecked. And he's just like, this is probably a sign from God that I should probably stop sailing. But I know myself to know I'm not gonna. But the shipwreck survivors are immediately gathered up by the inhabitants of the island they've shipwrecked themselves on, which feed them a herb robs them of their reason and fattens them up for the table. And Sin's like, no, I every time you guys feed someone that, they come up missing. I'm pretty sure y'all are eating them, so I'm just gonna pass. Eventually, the cannibals get bored and lose interest in them. He escapes. He eventually comes across a bunch of pepper gatherers where they save him from the cannibals island and transport them to their own island, where once again Sinbad gets befriended by the king and goes, hey man, do you want a beautiful and wealthy wife? And Sinbad's like, huh, I have never been married, which is weird because I'm like super rich. Thanks, man. So unfortunately his wife gets sick and dies, and while he's mourning her, he finds out one of the guys goes, oh man, it kind of sucks for you. And Sinbad's like, yeah, I know, I didn't even know her that long. And the other guy goes, no, I mean because you're about to be buried alive with her. And Sinbad goes, wait, what? And yeah, this happens. They give Sinbad a jug of water and 7 pieces of bread, and then shove him into a cavern with his dead wife. And Sinbad's like, this is gonna suck, this is gonna suck, this is gonna suck. And once those little bit of rations are almost gone, Sinbad comes across another couple, this time a husband dead and the wife alive, that get dropped into the cavern. So Sinbad murders the wife, takes her rations, and keeps doing this to different people, stealing their food, their water, any gold and gems the corpses have. And for a while, this lasts a while. Yes, I know Sinbad's starting to feel less sympathetic, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive, right? So, until one day, he stumbles across a wild animal. He's like, okay, this is a cavern. How'd you get in here? He follows the wild animal. It leads him to a passage to the outside, high above the sea, where, again, coincidentally, a passing ship rescues him and carries him back home, where he gives part of his new fortune to the poor, and resumes getting drunk as hell to escape the nagging guilt of having killed like a dozen people for his own survival. He once again gets bored, and then he somehow forgets that every single time he goes to sea, he gets into magical danger, decides to go sailing again, and at sea, they pass a desert island. Sinbad's crew spots a gigantic egg that Sinbad's like recognizes as a rock egg, and then goes into the whole rock speech again. And then the ship's passengers disembark to look at the egg, accidentally break it, and they eat the chick inside. And Sinbad goes, oh, we're all gonna die. Let's go back to the ship. I am not staying here to get eaten by a rock. I have seen rocks before. It does not end well for us. Yeah, this does not work. The infuriated parent rocks just catch up with the vessel and then just drop giant boulders on it. And Sinbad he's alive, but he gets enslaved by one of the ancient gods of the sea, the Old Man of the Sea. Yeah, that's a real, actual primordial god who appears in a lot of mythology, but that's beside the point. Let's keep going. Look. So the Old Man of the Sea twists his legs around Sinbad's neck and will not let go, riding him day and night until Sinbad's like, please let me die already. I just want to die. But, eventually they land on an island. Sinbad makes wine and tricks the old man to drinking some. Sinbad manages to either kill or KO, is kind of unclear because, ancient god. The Old Man of the Sea, after he falls off from being drunk, by bashing his freaking skull in with a rock. I cannot believe this, but Sinbad defeated a god by getting it drunk and then beating it to death with a rock. This is the world of the story. So once again, he gets saved by another just random ship that just happened to be sailing nearby. And they take him to the next island where the capital is known as the City of the Apes. And Sinbad's like, oh wow, that doesn't sound ominous at all. Yeah, turns out it was very ominous. Not even the walls of the city, which are super strong and super thick, could stop the apes from coming down from the trees, invading the city, and killing and eating whoever they found. To avoid them, the people would leave their homes and sleep in boats. Now, luckily, Sinbad fell in with some people who were like, "Hey, here, we collect these pebbles, and then we pelt the apes with them, and then the apes will throw coconuts at us." So Sin does this trade. He trades as well all the stuff he had gotten before he got shipwrecked, gets home, has another fortune, is like, okay, seriously? I probably should not leave my house again. And then 6 months later, he was really drunk and decided, hey, I'm bored. I am going to go sailing again. I mean, sure, every single time I go sailing, I get into life threatening situations, but hey, dumps the brakes, right? Once again, he gets a crew, they go sailing, and then one day, after weeks of traveling, the captain walks down and goes, alright, y'all, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I have no idea where we are. We are completely lost, and we're probably gonna die. Yeah, this is not the news you want to hear if you're a sailor. So, and then it gets worse because the sailor calls out from the top of the house, "Hey, we're approaching rocks. We should probably move, or we're gonna die." And then the captain goes, "Oh no, it's no use. We must all greet our deaths with dignity and grace." It seems like, yeah, but I don't want to die though. And then the ship was split apart by the rocks and wind. Once again, almost everyone died, but Sinbad was one of the few who survived. He's beat up, he's half dead, he's covered in cuts and bruises, he scrambles up on the rocks, and finally finds an island again. Now, all over this island, precious stones were lying around like pebbles. Just the stream was filled with diamonds. You could pick up royal pearls as easy as gravel. There was amber. There was freaking ambergris from all the whales that would cut themselves open on the rocks. It was a really, really rich island. You know, if you didn't mind nearly dying to get there. But there's nothing to eat. And once again, Singh goes, you know, what use is being rich if you're starving to death? So Sinbad goes deeper into the island, comes across a river, makes a raft for it, makes a poem to sail along the river that goes, fly, fly across the seas, follow fate in the salty breeze, trusting yourself and in no other land after land you shall discover, fret not for your life when you sleep at night, for all will pass when the time is right. Which, you know, is true for you, but what about all those dead corpses you just saw? The wind carries him along. He eventually gets into a tunnel that goes straight into a wall. And out of nowhere, this tunnel opens up, and there's a whole civilization that for some reason speaks Arabic, despite the fact that he is nowhere near Arabia anymore. So they give him food, they carry him, his boat, and his precious jewels, once again to the king. Now, Sinbad calls the place Sri Lanka, which makes no sense, but we're going to go with it. The king sits down, he listens. That's a really messed up story. Have you tried not leaving your house? And Sin's like, yeah, but I get bored. Okay, you know what? That's stupid. I'm going to return you to Baghdad and I am going to give you gifts for your caliphate, for your caliph. And Sinbad's like, oh, totally, thanks, man. I would really appreciate that. So he does that. Sinbad eats his fill. He gets a new boat. They go sailing. The caliph of whatever Arabian city that Sinbad lives in goes, Sin, you have just like the worst luck. You should probably not leave your house. And Sin's like, this is totally the last time. However, it wasn't the last time. This time is the last time. For the final voyage of Sinbad, Sin is once again getting really, 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 really drunk, and he decides, man, I have got to sail the seas one last time to visit foreign countries, make friends, and experience new things. but I swear to Allah, this is my last time. Either I will die or I will become the richest man in all of Arabia and never leave my house again. Not one more time. This is it. For real. So he does so. He gets another ship, which leads to me asking who is renting him all these ships? Like, yo, crew is not coming back. You should probably not rent him any more boats, but they keep doing this. But anyway, they eventually come to a city called Madat al Sind, where they do a lot of good business. They sail from the city, and say it with me, people, the ship gets wrecked again. Ugh, my God. But this time it is so bad because the storm that wrecked the ship has driven them to the furthest corner of the world. No one has any idea where they are. And they find a book called The Sea of the King. Here, the king being Solomon, the son of David, where apparently giant sea monsters live, and the ship gets attacked by giant sea monsters, gets eaten. Sinbad is the only survivor, again, because of course he's the only survivor, and he eventually wakes up, crashes on another island, and he finally finds a river of sweet water to drink, finds some food, makes himself a raft, sails through a valley, gets found by a fisherman. The fisherman feeds him, gives him a bath, all that good stuff for 4 days. Then they're like, "Hey man," then the fisherman's like, "Hey man, you have goods. Why don't you come with me? We're gonna sell your stuff. We're gonna get you some cash." So yeah, so they go down to the market. They start haggling. Sin once again gets a small fortune. They go back home, and the fisherman's like, "Hey man, I'm very old but very rich, and I have a daughter who's young and ready to marry. You want to marry her?" And Sin's like, "Look man, the last time I got married, I got shoved into a cavern." And the fisherman's like, "Oh, don't worry, we don't have that. We don't have that practice here." "Oh, okay then, never mind. Screw it. Let's do it. Let's get married. Let's go." Now, the daughter's young and beautiful, and she's gorgeous and all that good stuff. So now that he's married into this society, Sinbad's all accepted, and they let him in on a secret. Once a month, all of them are transformed into birds. So Sinbad walks up to one of his friends and goes, "Hey man, next time this happens, why don't you carry me on your back so I may know what it feels like to fly?" He's like, "Look, as ideas go, this is a bad one, and I feel like we're both going to die if this happens." Sin's like, "It'll be fine. Come on. And he just keeps pressing him until the guy's like, "Okay, fine, whatever. Let's do it." So he climbs on his back, and they fly so high that Sinbad says he can hear the angels glorifying God in the heavens. This might be true. He might be suffering from altitude sickness. We're not going to judge. But Sin goes, "Yeah, praise be to Allah and his perfection." And just immediately gets hit with a giant fireball from heaven. And Sin just gets dropped onto a freaking mountain. And here he meets two young men carrying rods of gold, and they're like, "Hey guys, what's up? Who are you?" "We're servants of God, of Allah the Most High. Here's a rod of gold. Come on, walk down the mountain with us." So they do. They hear the cries of a man, "Save me, and Allah will save you from all your troubles." The next moment, a great serpent shows up out of nowhere. It had already half swallowed him. His head and the top part were still sticking out of his mouth, and he was calling out. So Sin takes his golden rod and beats the giant serpent over the head with it until it runs away, which is the second time Sinbad has gotten into a fight with a giant monster and won with nothing but a stick. So they do this. They find a group of these men birds from before. They carry him back to the city. His wife, Sinbad's wife, sees him, freaks out, rejoices in his safety, and goes, "Hey, don't trust those bird folk anymore. Do not mention the name of Allah to them. They're related to demons." And Sinbad's like, "Man, that would have been useful information to know, like, yesterday." So he's like, "Yeah, babe, come with me. We're done here. I'm taking you to my home." They sold all their property, boarded a ship back to whatever Arabian country Sinbad is from, get back, and then they're like, "Hey, Sin, you've been gone for 27 years." And Sin's like, 27? What? That's 2-7. Okay, yeah, you know what? No, I'm done. This is it. On Allah, I swear to y'all, I am not leaving again. Babe, we're done here. Sit down, get our stuff. We're done. We're rich. I'm not doing this anymore. I have been shipwrecked 7 times. That is 6 more times than anyone else needs to be shipwrecked. We're done. He thanks God. He thanks the Lord, and he's like, I'm done. And finally, Sinbad never, ever goes sailing again. He finally learned his lesson. And that goes to the end of the 7 Voyages of Sinbad. Thank you for having fun with me. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, my book, The 21st Century Guide to Mythology, Greek Mystery Told, is available exclusively on Amazon. Links are in the description. Have a wonderful day. And remember, don't be like Sinbad. Stay home, stay safe. Later days.